Chris Haynes, TNT Bleacher Report, senior NBA insider, also has a podcast with Mark Stein called #ThisLeagueUncut. Okay, let's start Chris Paul. This is interesting. So I threw this out there. We understand what Phoenix, Chris, they don't want to pay the big money. They like Chris. But let me throw this at you. I think Vogel is going to get the most out of DeAndre Ayton. I think that's his history. He's good with bigs. I think Booker's a star. I love KD, but he is now at a point in his career, Chris, where he gets injured. I think it's very difficult to have both Chris Paul and KD on the same roster because if they're both out, it puts enormous pressure on Booker to drop 40 points. So I said I would move Chris Paul for like a Marcus Smart. Marcus is in his prime. You don't need offense. Marcus is a defensive point guard. Celtics need a facilitator and a quarterback with that offense because Jason Tatum's not a guard and he's often he's getting the ball in play. So my takeaway is Chris Paul has a market. Chris, I don't think it's Phoenix. Am I wrong on that?
Well, I would say this. Phoenix, they haven't closed the door on the potential that he could come back. You know, when they waive him, it will be a situation where they will still be able to re-sign him for a cheaper. You know, his contract, if they waive him before June 28th, he will be owed around 14, 15 million. That's all he would get. He wouldn't get the rest of that, I believe 15 or 16 million more. And then they can resign him. But if they waived and stretched him over a period, I believe it's 4 or 5 years, he would not be able to come back at that point. So we're still in the stages where they're trying to figure out exactly how they're going to do this. Chris Paul, you know, I spoke to him a little bit. You know, he's waiting to see, you know, how this all is going to play out. But, you know, I think it's a little bit too early to start talking about where he's going to go as of right now. But, you know, to your point about Boston, you know, I personally like the fit. I don't know how Chris would like going all the way to Boston, but basketball-wise, it'd probably be a good fit.
Yeah, I think Chris Paul has value. It's got to be the right number. It's got to be a team with some young players in their prime. You know, so he doesn't have to play 82 games. He can play 55. Tatum, Brown, Brogdon, they play their 70 games. He'll be good in the playoffs. Let's talk about Anthony Davis. So he's got a year left, and I understand the Lakers look at Anthony Davis as their second best player, but really the bedrock guy because he's still close to his prime. But if you're the Lakers, you want to keep Austin Reeves. You owe LeBron a couple of years. Why would I have to pay AD early? Why can't I just wait for another year and then we discuss this? I think he's the classic player, Chris, because of his injury history. I'm not paying him early. I may have to pay him, but I don't want to pay him early. Why would the Lakers have to?
Well, I think you have to look at precedent, particularly when you're talking about top guys. And I think we've even seen it with even guys under in that middle tier category. Guys don't like playing on expiring contracts. And depending on the type of stars don't like playing on a contract where they have 2 years left. They want the flexibility. They want those guaranteed years. And I haven't spoken to AD since they were swept by the Denver Nuggets. But the Lakers still value him as a core centerpiece to this team. So with that being said, I would think I would think they would be able to get something done that would benefit both sides. You know, if there is no talk, I know AD's injury history. I haven't heard from the Lakers or I haven't heard from any teams at all as far as like the Lakers saying that AD can be had or be available or anything like that. He's a core piece. So with that being said, I think they will take care of him and get something done.
The Warriors GM, Bob Myers, left. And he's got young kids, I get it. But I wonder if he left because he probably knew for them to be a viable championship team, Chris, that they can't bring the entire band back, and they have to tear it apart a little. They're going to keep Steph and Draymond. But he probably knows he didn't want to sign Klay to a 4 or a 5 year deal. It's not a viable team when all your core past their prime. what is your guess on what the Warriors look like next year? Because it's always great to say, let's bring the band back together, but we watched them against the Lakers, Chris, and they looked small. They looked tiny. They looked outmanned. They looked dominated on the glass. It doesn't feel like a championship team to me.
I hear you, but my guess is that they bring their core back, the core guys that helped them get those championships. And Cowherd, on your own podcast network, Draymond Green, he had Steve Kerr on, and he was talking about the value of having role players play their role, even though they might not play certain minutes, they might not know when they're going to get in the game, but having guys that are available to come in and not give you any mouth, not give you any lip. And so with that being said, him talking very candidly to Draymond like that lets me know that, the problem was the supporting cast. And that's something Steve Kerr talked about, ad nauseum this past season, is just trying to find the right nucleus. They weren't able to get the ingredients that led to the championship the year prior. Otto Porter played such a huge role last year. David West in past years, and Andre Iguodala having an extensive role. He wasn't able to be healthy a good amount of games in order to have an effect on the court. So that leads me to believe they still feel like there's a lot left in the tank. They just need to get the right supporting cast and guys that buy in to whatever they're trying to do at that particular season.
Okay, finally, Damian Lillard on a podcast talked about Miami, and they're the classic Cinderella team where they're playing a little over their head. They've got undrafted guys. They've got two excellent players, Butler and Bam. But if you put a Dame on that team with Butler, Bam, and Dame, that feels like arguably the best team in the league. This feels like a great Cinderella story that we can't quite figure out how it's working. Dame is one of my favorite guys ever in the league, but he's not playing in May and June. It would benefit his shoe deal. It would benefit his legacy. It would benefit everything. What do you make? Miami's not going to sit around, Chris. Pat Riley is going to get, you know what I mean? They got some guys that are due big contracts. They could move Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin. Do you think Dame Miami feel? I think it's a fit. I think it works, right? Because he's not a great defender, but Butler and Bam can defend. What do you make of Dame in Miami?
Well, I'm in Miami right now. Let me give a shout out to Remy's workout facility. That's where I'm at right now. And he has pickup games. That's where a lot of NBA players come during the summer and work out. Andre Drummond is out there right now. They're playing pickup. Kevin Knox, Jonathan Kuminga of the Warriors, and lots of other guys. But, I spoke with Dame yesterday. And, I asked him, I said, man, you were really candid. Revealing those teams. I've known about it. But I would say this. Portland has the number 3 pick, and Damian Lillard wants to win now. And if the Portland Trailblazers want to win now as well, that pick will be moved to get help now. So if Portland does not move that pick to bring help now, that's where I think we're going to see some movement. That's where it's going to be some serious talks had by Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers, which could ultimately lead to the Miami Heat jumping in the picture, the Brooklyn Nets jumping in the picture. And yes, look, if Damian's going to get traded, it's going to be in the Eastern Conference. The Miami Heat, for sure, if Dame is made available, the Miami Heat for sure will be knocking at the door, trying to figure out a way to get in there and make this thing happen. And look, the transition will be seamless. He would be that guy. They've needed a dominant point guard for a while. Kyle Lowry hasn't been healthy, when they traded for him. Hasn't really shown the Kyle Lowry that we've seen in Toronto. Damian Lillard will provide that, just on an even greater level. It will be a good situation, but there are some things that have to happen before we even get to that point. And it's going to be ultimately what the Portland Trailblazers decide to do with that number.
All right, Chris Haynes. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.